Welcome back to Gruber Power Hour, where we explore the intersection of technology, innovation, and culture. I'm Erica.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. I'm Pete. Today we're going to dive into the rich and fascinating history of communication and how we've moved from primitive signals to sophisticated AI-driven dialogues.
It's a journey. It's packed with fascinating innovations and reshape human interactions. It's kind of cool. I really have enjoyed learning quite a bit about it. So let's kind of get started. So the first form that I could find of communication, really, and understanding was nonverbal.
hmm
So think about cave paintings or the use of gestures, and evidence of symbolic communication dates back about 40,000 years, probably a lot more than that. I'm sure there's more than that, but some say, even longer.
Yeah, it depends on who you talk to. We've got the Atlanteans, for example, which is
Yeah.
mythical, but and there's even some people think that underneath the polar ice caps,
Yeah.
evidence of earlier civilizations. So, having gone through some ice ages,
hmm
entirely possible. But yeah, communication is definitely a handy thing to have for us to coexist, right?
Yeah, yeah. The Sumerian was a very interesting revolution, I thought, and it was just fascinating. But it's also how writing kind of changed everything from administrative to storytelling, and I don't know. I just the intricacies behind communication. It's even today we kind of reverted back to symbolism with all the emojis, which I
hmm
find very fun.
Yeah, fast forward a few centuries, and then we see the Phoenicians developing the alphabet around 1200 BC, which then spread throughout the Mediterranean, and it laid the groundwork for many modern.
Yeah, yeah. Following writing, one of the most monumental innovations was the printing press. So it was invented by Johannes Gutenberg in the mid 15th century. But how did that impact communication, Pete?
Well, the Gutenberg press was massive, and it allowed for the mass production of books and the spread of knowledge like never before.
Pete, I'm sorry,
Ins-
could you get that mic right up in front of you? It's
Sure.
a different.
So instead of storytelling, now we had the ability to, with written communication, to transfer knowledge in
hmm
many different ways. And what happened was the literacy rates increased.
Drastically.
With the Bible now accessible, for example, to the masses rather than just the clergy elite.
The elite. They
Yeah.
always get it. So, and during the Enlightenment, the democratization of knowledge spurred new ideas in science, politics, philosophy. It just kind of spread pamphlets and printed newspaper, and it changed public discourse, kind of
did
like it
indeed.
does
Yeah.
today.
So, moving ahead, let's explore how the telegraph revolutionized communication in the 19th century. Um, now, the telegraph was developed around 1830s and the
Oh,
1840s, and this was really one of the first applications of electricity.
mm-hmm.
But it changed communication in that rather than transporting written communication, books,
Right.
whatever. Um, you could now actually send this through electrons over wires. And,
I saw a documentary a long time ago when I first learned about telegraphs and how you had to learn it wasn't easy understanding
Morse code.
the tappies in
Yeah.
the Morse code. No, it absolutely was not. The telegraph was interesting. Had you ever actually seen a telegraph work in person?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We, in the high school that I went to, it was a vocational high school. So a lot of the early technologies were
Mm,
uh, introduced and also replicated. And yeah, we actually built a little telegraph, the
really?
keys and the clicking. It's a fairly simple concept. It's an electromagnetic coil,
Mm-hmm.
and by passing a current through it, then magnetizes the core, which is usually some ferrous metal, which then
Mm-hmm.
pulls down a little lever that
Mm-hmm.
clicks. And that was the sound that was then developed
Okay.
into a language called Morse code. So a certain sequence of clicks meant different things, and they
Right.
transposed the entire letters of the alphabet into Morse code.
That's crazy. Yeah, Morse code is what was the gentleman's name? I know his name. His last name was Morse. What was it again? It was
Social media guys, you're going to have to help us with the
Samuel
first name.
Morse. Thank you.
Samuel,
And became
okay.
like the universal language, leading like widespread adoption to global communication with just a few decades, and then it went into, of course, skipping to the telephone, which was invented by Alexander Graham Bell in 1876. Within, just a few decades, it went from the telegraph, Morse code, telephone. So,
Now,
so
bringing
crazy.
our theme or the company that we're doing this podcast with
Yeah.
into this equation now,
Yeah.
it begs the question, did they need uninterruptible power for these devices?
I believe so.
I mean, think of this. If they're in the middle of an important Morse code stream, especially military related, having a power outage at that point in time could be tragic.
Yeah, like during the wars.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there definitely was. And I've even read a lot about that recently too, was regarding how a lot of the translation of Morse code was interpreted incorrectly because of the panic and the state of mind at the time. And some of the things that happened were not accurate. So that was kind of cool. But then came the age of radio. And television, it transformed communication. So it brought democratizing access of information and entertainment, really.
Yeah. I mean, think how strange it must have been to people of the time that were used to getting their mail by stagecoach,
Right.
right? Western Union.
Good old Wells Fargo.
Yeah. And the delay between an event and people finding out about it could be weeks.
Yeah.
Especially transatlantic. No one knew what was going on in Europe because
No.
there was no direct method of communication. So to have something like radio now, which could actually encircle the globe, like shortwave radio, bounces off the ionosphere and it hits various parts of the globe,
Yeah.
was just revolutionary because now you had real-time communication compared to waiting for a week or two to find out that, Iowa just had a tornado and your hometown was obliterated or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't believe I can't imagine living in a world where if I wanted to know something, I had to have, number one, patience. We don't have that these days. The communication is like, hey, I'm doing good. I made my landing over here and so. This is like 2 months later.
Yeah. Information delay was,
Yeah.
quite common.
That's crazy.
So then comes radio and television. And of course, these are mediums that
1920s.
they send information over the airwaves using electromagnetic frequencies. And, now we were able to not only hear someone speaking somewhere else,
Yeah.
just like the telephone, but now much longer distances without wires.
Right.
But with television, we're starting to be able to see what they're saying as well.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And that happened. The first radio broadcasting was in the 1920s, and I believe the television was like mid 20th century, and then the infamous debut of JFK and Richard Nixon. It debuted in 1960. How visual. It's the visual communication, like you're saying. It was so different because you can really put yourself in the, what is it saying? In the times, you can sit there and really relate to it. It's kind of cool.
We've got a comment from YouTube. Neil joined us. It's G-N-I-E-L, but it sounds like Neil, I'm assuming. And he says, yo. Yo back.
I love that. Oh, but so the internet, that's what came next.
There was a political debate, really the first one of any consequence, and it was between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. And people began to realize that politics and this kind of technology is quite handy. Now, of course, they've taken it to an extreme. I don't know if you watch any television, but I can't watch it anymore.
I don't anymore because of it. I have to go on the internet and watch TV at this point.
Yeah. I mean, every 3 minutes you've got a political ad, and then you get the opposing party doing the same type of ad, hurling the same amount of dirt and accusations, and it's out of control.
So it is. It's so hard to, from then to now, it's hard to make an accurate understanding of policies or any of that, not to get too political, but I mean, why not?
Yeah.
But I think the accuracy of the information is it's just a bunch of slander. That's what it
Yeah,
feels like.
how do you make a decision based on a proliferation of misinformation?
Right.
The majority of it is inaccurate. It's taken out of context,
Right.
and for both sides. I'm not a political guy, by the way. So if any of you are thinking it's time to debate with Pete,
No.
forget it. I'm not into that. But yeah, it's very difficult to make any kind of decision. So
Yeah, and
um,
I think that very much started with that evolution there because it was immediately, like you said, it was just immediate access to the audience of the political parties, and it just spread information so fast and rapid that it was easy to believe it.
and then, of course, we've talked about some of the slower methods of communication, including even television and radio, and then we get into the internet.
Oh, internet.
Yeah.
What a double-edged sword. So it just opened a floodgate.
Well, now information is accessible at any moment, anywhere on the planet. We now have satellites that are actually able to beam, and so you don't have to have any fiber or copper wires, on land anywhere. You can actually do that through the air,
The wireless connection.
instant. Now the problem again becomes, what kind of information are we propagating? Is it accurate? Is it? And now you throw in AI, and we've got a whole new conundrum, which is
My goodness.
the land of make believe. That
Yeah.
realities now are optional. They're,
Very.
yeah. It's
What is it?
it's
The
no longer-
metaverse?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen it? Have you been into the metaverse before?
I haven't been in it, but yeah, I've definitely heard, read, and been exposed
My
to some
son
of
brought
it.
home a Oculus, is what it was called at the time, a few
Oh,
years
yeah,
back.
yeah, the
The
headset,
virtual
yeah.
reality, and he was able to physically step into the metaverse. And he told me when he came out, he's like, I feel so like disoriented.
Yeah.
He's like, it didn't feel like reality when I came out of it. It felt more like reality when I was in it.
You
And I was
begin
like, that's
to-
scary.
I think you begin to question your sanity at some point. It's like watching the movie The Matrix.
Ooh,
The
great movie.
basic premise there is that the reality that we consider valid and real isn't.
It's an alternate.
It's a dream state, and that there are many other realities that may be more realistic, to tune into. And it creates a lot of cognitive dissonance. You begin to think, you second guess yourself constantly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The more information that I find and hear about, the humans and how they came about and how we were a consequence more than anything from a genetic makeup, I was like, oh, looking at this scientifically, not biblically, this is very interesting. You can go down a lot of rabbit holes with that scientific fact of evolution. It's crazy.
So sneaking back a bit to the older technology that we talked about, and we jokingly said earlier that UPSs, uninterruptible power systems, are necessary to keep these types of devices alive.
Yeah.
Take the telegraph, for example. It's a bunch of clicks using Morse code, and the electrons are traveling over wires long distances, usually following railroad right-of-ways because that was the easiest way to
Right.
do it. And if you did have a power outage, then what? Your communication ceased. One of the early uninterruptible power systems actually was a battery.
Really?
And yeah, the telegraphs don't operate on AC; they operate on direct current,
Oh.
which of course is in the realm of batteries.
Yeah.
So the uninterruptible portion of a telegraph system would be the battery storage systems that it was tied to. So if your utility power dropped out, all you lost was your charging for the batteries.
Yeah. I never thought about that. I don't know. It's so simple. Maybe I just overlooked it.
And actually, it continued. Once we got to voice communication over telephone lines, the central offices typically had large banks of batteries. They were 48-volt systems. Same thing. The phones operated at 46 or at 48 volts.
Okay.
And when a power outage occurred, no one really cared that much because you just simply weren't charging your batteries until they restored power, which was usually fairly rapidly.
I guess it wasn't as pertinent to them then as it is now. Is that why it kind of wasn't thought of earlier? Or...
Well, they didn't need the AC UPS.
Yeah.
The UPS is the Gruber Power Services both cells and services,
Hmm.
are designed to operate AC devices like power supplies for servers,
Hmm.
data centers, and they convert DC to AC in
Right.
order to achieve that goal. So with the earlier methods, it was a bit more elegant because you were direct DC and you didn't have to worry about the AC
Hmm.
conversion.
I would never have really thought about that. But yeah, I mean, with social media platforms, just kind of coming back to the
Hmm.
2000s, it's like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I mean, we're on all of them because it's completely relevant for our times. But it transformed how we share our lives and information. And I feel like we're more into the weeds of people's lives than
Yeah.
we probably have ever been and probably ever should be.
Well, there were some predictions made when the internet was first being discussed, and it goes back to the ARPANET days in the 1970s, I believe. I did a paper on this one time, so I'm going to try to remember
Yeah.
some of this.
Give me your dissertation.
Yeah. So the internet originally was sold as a medium for uniting the world.
Hmm.
And the reason being
Hmm.
is now diverse cultures in other parts of the world would be able to see and hear and experience
Hmm.
at that level other cultures and the other people on the planet. And the prediction was is that's going to eventually put an end to wars and
Oh, no.
well, exactly, yeah. And I'm
How
still
would that put an end to a war? If anything, we're integrating cultures, and that's what war kind of is
more
derived from.
more acceptance, I think, was the basis
Yeah.
for that prediction. And yeah, I'm terribly disappointed that just the opposite seems to be true
Yeah.
because the internet or the technologies that surround that have
Mhm.
made war much easier and simpler. We now have AI involved with drones and
Well, yeah, we're so reliant
Mhm.
on electricity, the banking systems, electronics in general are like really very much a part of our lives unless we're Amish,
Mhm.
or some culture of some sort that's not
Yeah.
like a city folk, you know? I mean, in the city, we're relying on our power companies, we're relying on the power plants, we're relying on certain water, we're relying on the grocery stores to be full. We're so reliant on everything that I just feel like a lot of people have disconnected from what really should be going on. And I wish perhaps we can get back to that one day very
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we stand on the brink of a new era. I mean, it's AI, like we've talked about before, and AI is evolving in communication space. I mean, I'll let you take AI. It's kind of your topic. I'll let you take that.
Well, I enjoy AI, and yeah, the question might be how will AI continue to evolve mankind?
Yeah.
And that's a very loaded question with a
Yeah.
lot to unpack. But remember that we now have an opportunity to actually raise the overall intelligence level of everybody on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And although that's happened gradually,
Yeah.
with AI, it's going to be on steroids. It's going to
Oh,
be a
for sure.
rapid increase. The question then becomes again speculating, like we did
Mm-hmm.
at the age at the dawn of the internet. How will this
Yeah.
play out? Will this make us more peace loving? Will this make us
No.
more accepting of other cultures? Will the added intelligence get us away from the same human frailties that have plagued us for thousands of years? Envy, greed, power, all of those
I
types
feel
of
like
things.
it'll just make it faster.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Well,
envy will happen faster. The greed will happen faster because it's AI generated.
mhm.
I don't know. I didn't believe in the internet not causing problems. I don't believe AI won't cause a problem. I think there with great power always comes great responsibility, no matter what.
So here's where we get into a topic that I sometimes discuss on the AI podcast. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, for those of you interested in
Yeah.
AI, it's Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. Our channel is the Gruber Motor Company channel, and we do an AI podcast. It's about a half-hour podcast. It's
Mm-hmm.
interactive. We look for feedback, inputs, and we cover all of the new information that has been released for the last week, which in the world of AI is constant. We have to cherry pick and be very selective to prioritize what we present.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that has been discussed a number of times is maybe mankind is no longer going to be regarded as being proper stewards of the planet and
Agreed.
humanity,
Mm-hmm.
and that the possibility for AI overlords the time is right for that.
Yeah.
In that, the analogy I like to use, it's like you've got teenagers. And the parents go away on vacation for a month. They come back, and the kids have destroyed the house. Well, AI overlords might just be the parents coming home and saying, okay, you guys have had a few thousand years to get your act together. You're still killing each other for senseless reasons, ideology, political, religion, you name it,
Whatever
right?
it is.
Old grievances that happened thousands of years ago. We're going to step in now, and we're going to take over, and we're going to move you towards a utopian society. You're going to learn to live in peace, and we're going to end this endless stream of carnage that's going on
I
the
would
planet.
love it. I mean, it sounds mindless, though. That's the only scary part, I think, is like not having to think for yourself and having AI think for you.
You know, I have a prediction there as well, though. Anything that's infinitely smarter than we are, take just the collective intelligence of the entire human race, which is what AI has access to, but then also generative AI or super intelligent AI, which is actually smarter than the sum total of all human experiences. I can't imagine they're not going to find ways to keep us satisfied, motivated, and living in harmony.
I would
And
love it.
Yeah, and make our lives rewarding.
I wouldn't resist it. I wouldn't resist happiness. I just get concerned because it's a topic of innovation, and I think innovation scares everyone. Change scares people, and no matter in the masses. But when you look at the computer that I've fed the information to, I'm a conspiracy nut, so this is where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Is like someone's telling it the information, someone's planting the information, and it's, you know, generating the information from the collective of information which we all have access to. And thankfully it might be smarter than us and not put feelings into it, just fact into it. So hopefully that creates the harmony, because I think the problem right now is that AI that we use, like Chat GPT or something like that, it'll even come up with, I can't give you that information.
Well, those are the guardrails, and those have
Right.
been intentionally inserted. I would love to have access to open AI servers
Yeah.
with all guardrails removed
Yes.
to test the capability of
Yes.
where we're at currently with artificial, or where it has evolved to.
Yes.
You know,
That would make me probably more comfortable. But when there's a guardrail on it, it makes me go, so who's controlling you?
right. And AI knows all.
I've even asked, who's controlling you?
right.
It gives me their web host.
So playing this out for a moment, how would AI overlords take control of a planet that is clearly out of control? Some people are even speculating now. We're in the middle of World War III. We just don't want to call it that yet.
Yeah.
Look how many countries are fighting each other.
Absolutely.
Now you got those North Korean nut jobs coming into Ukraine.
Yeah.
You know, this looks like a world war to me. It doesn't look like regional skirmishes anymore.
No, this isn't our everyday, oh, we've been in Iraq for 20 years, but nothing's happening. No,
Right.
this is full-blown war.
So here is how AI could render all of this or put this back on track. AI, or the Internet of Things, all of that is, it has its tentacles in everything. So we have these weapons of mass destruction, which are used as clubs to, browbeat the nations that don't have it, and,
Me,
saber
bigger, you
rattle
small.
and threaten and all that. AI could overnight neutralize all of that. Now what do you have? You have a level playing field. Suddenly, you no longer have the ability to bully your neighbor.
Wouldn't that be something?
And then you take the weapons, the other weapons, and they neutralize those as well. Now we don't have the ability to kill each other anymore. And then eventually you have to take away the motivation. You know, if you really look at why have humans killed each other for thousands of years,
Superiority.
they're the most ridiculous reasons you could even conceive.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's bad information. The Gulf of Tonkin, for example, the reason we went to Vietnam.
Yep.
There's a lot of conspiracy
Yes.
about how that was contrived, right?
My grandfather spoke of it
Yes, yeah.
a lot.
And as a result, 67,000 of my generation died because of
Right,
that.
right.
You know? So you have now the technology to be able to take over.
Yeah.
And like you, I welcome it. I don't think that anything more intelligent than us is going to subscribe to the Hollywood version
Yeah.
of robots going rogue, killing humans.
Yeah. I don't know about that.
Anyone that articulates this kind of concept that AI is dangerous, that robots will be dangerous, that they will want to annihilate humans, they will exterminate us, just ask why. What would motivate this?
Yeah.
And no one is able to articulate that.
No, unless you put like the thought into AI's head. But if it's so smart, then it understands that that's not accurate.
Yeah.
It's taking the emotion. And that's what I think humans have had the issue with is, and it's something me and my husband discuss all the time because he's a very fact-driven person and I'm a very emotionally driven person. So he goes, okay, if you could remove your emotions from this and just see it in this way, do you understand why your action doesn't reason with what you're saying?
Sure.
Your actions and your words are different. So then I would remove the emotion and see it in a black and white and understand reason and logic rather than emotion. And that's what I think AI really is doing. It's removing the emotional side of it and just giving you the most. I mean, there's plenty of data from human interaction and human data. There's just so much of it. There's millions and billions of years of it. So why wouldn't it be able to predict what a human's going to do? Humans predict what humans are going to do. Why wouldn't the supercomputer?
Sure.
And to be able to eliminate a lot of the negative emotion, that would be great. I don't know. I would welcome it if I knew that it wasn't being controlled.
Manipulated.
Yeah.
But again, you have to think, what would motivate something that's infinitely more intelligent than us to damage or continue killing humans
There
or to
wouldn't be a
engage in
reason
that?
for that.
No. Even this
It
old,
goes against its creation,
yeah,
really.
even this Old Testament notion that there is a deity that needs to be worshipped. My question is, why?
Mhm.
Is the deity insecure? It's a valid question.
That is a valid question.
You would think that anything that created us, that is more intelligent than us, would be interested in our welfare and create a peace-loving environment or a peaceful environment for mankind.
Harmonic environment. Yeah, that would be so cool. Oh, we got some peoples out there. So Jai Shadhari, Shadhari, sorry. Hi. Jalu Kostan. I got a 4.10 amp hour CAC imbalance in my 60K mile Model Y. I saw that 8 amp hour imbalance would trigger the BMS U18. My battery capacity is currently 70 kilowatt hour versus 82.
Yeah, the BMS U18 is a common error once the bricks get out of balance in a EV, in a Tesla. And, it sounds like your battery is starting to decline. Hopefully it's under warranty. Can we scroll that back down a bit? I want to see what the year was. There is a drivetrain warranty.
Free tech support right here on Gruber Power.
There we go. It doesn't say what the year, well, it can't be that old, it's a Model Y. So I would suggest Tesla at this point, and should you be worried, I would say definitely have the service center look at it. They can remote it in 2021. Yeah, you're under warranty.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, don't sweat it. They'll probably change your battery. So, and thanks for chiming in, J-Lo.
Thanks. There's a Gruber Motor Company one later today. You can also chime into that one. That'd be cool.
Yeah, the Gruber Motor Company podcast, by the way, and this is impromptu. We don't normally do them on a Friday.
Yeah.
Is because we actually reached on that YouTube channel 1 million subscribers early this morning. Yeah. Before I took my shower around 4:30 or so, we still had about 400 to go before we hit 1 million, and I thought I'd catch the rollover and record it, or at least take a screenshot of it. And by the time I got done, an hour and a half later, it was already over 1 million.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
So what we're going to cover in that podcast here in just a few minutes
Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you. The history of our GMC, Gruber Motor Company podcast channel, and how that was really the one that spawned these other channels, which is Gruber Power Services, our communication services group, and how much work it is to get to 1 million subscribers.
It is a lot.
It's been 5 years, over
goodness.
1,500 videos, and enormous amount of dedication and effort by our social media team, which is sitting behind me here.
Yeah, that is so cool. Well, we're going to close the show tonight, but we hope this discussion has given you a deeper appreciation for, when it comes to open communication and communication in general and the history of communication, because it's really just getting started.
Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Pete Gruber. We'll see